So here in Calcasieu Parish, you're going to be hearing information about precinct captains. You're going to be hearing information about what we need to do to fight. Now is the time. Bloody Sunday. There was a lot of things that got us where we are, and we will not go back. No kings. No kings. All right. Let's go.
All right. All right. Thank y'all for sticking with us. For this last bit, for the last 45 minutes or so, we have our U.S. Senate candidates, Democratic candidates. We are missing one. Jamie Davis is not here today. But we do, and we thank our two other Democratic Senate candidates, Mr. Gary Crockett from New Orleans and Mr. Nick Albares from New Orleans. Thank y'all for coming down.
Good afternoon. It's great to see you today. The reason that I'm here is because I want to be with the people that are genuine. I felt that it was very important to make the trip over here so that I could see people and talk to them, look right into their faces. My name is Gary Crockett. I'm from Tallulah, Louisiana. Very small town, pretty impoverished. I'm a 24-year Navy veteran, retired. In addition to that, I own 4 other companies. The reason that I'm running is because of you. The reason that I'm running is because of this very time. Time was over sitting on the sidelines, seeing things happen to our state. Louisiana is a very beautiful state. And being on this highway, I've fallen in love with Louisiana all over again. I'm here to be the voice of the people in the United States Senate. I have a self-funded campaign, not asking for any donations during the primary. And the reason for that is because I want no influence other than the influence of the people. I want to hear what you have to say so that I can do what you want me to do.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here in Calcasieu with you all today. My name is Nick Albares, and I'm running for the United States Senate. When I qualified for this race, I said my political philosophy is simple. Every person has dignity, every person is important, and our public policy ought to reflect that. So I'm a father, a husband. I have 3 sons. My oldest is with me today, Bobby. Bobby, will you stand up for everybody? And I want a future for my kids that is a world filled with dignity, solutions, and results. Because when I looked at this Republican primary, I saw opponents who were focused on one thing, and that was fighting to be closest to Donald Trump. My promise to you is I'm in this race to fight to be closest to the people. So my career has been focused on making government work for everyone. I worked with Governor Edwards to expand Medicaid to 500,000 people, and I fought in the legislature to keep it safe from Republican threats while as a policy advisor. It's a fight I've taken on and won, and I'm glad to have Governor Edwards' endorsement of my candidacy. Thank you all.
Our first question: as the Supreme Court decided this week, if race cannot be considered in drawing our congressional districts, what can you guys do to assure that minority citizens are fairly represented in Congress? You're first.
So today I joined as a plaintiff in the lawsuit pushing back on this disgraceful decision by the Supreme Court and the actions, the anti-democratic actions of Governor Jeff Landry. So we have to fight back in the courts first. But as your next United States Senator, I will also be fighting in the Congress because we need to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. We need to enshrine the protections of the Voting Rights Act in the 21st century. because you see it over and over where the courts are gutting it. So I will stand up time and time again, because right now here in Louisiana, 1/3 of this state is made up of black voters. And we need equal representation. I will fight for it in the courts, and I will fight for it in the United States Senate. Today, we see Jeff Landry working to change the rules when he can't get his way. He knows that Republicans are losing on the issues, and so now he's just trying to push people out. He did it in New Orleans when he didn't like the clerk of court that we elected with 68% of the vote, Calvin Duncan. He pushed him out. He eliminated black judges from their positions, and now he's trying to do it to Representative Cleo Fields and throwing our elections into chaos. We need to stand up, stand out, and push back.
Mr. Crockett.
So I too am a plaintiff on that same case. But in addition to that, I want you to know that not just at the high level, but I'll be on the ground at the lower level as well. In addition to being a plaintiff on that case, on yesterday we also filed suit against Jeff Landry, the state of Louisiana, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the leaders of both the House and the Senate, as well as the Civil Clerk of Court of Orleans Parish, concerning the Calvin Duncan position. Now, though all the other suits were thrown out, my suit has survived. Not only has it survived, but we have a hearing on Friday, May 8th at 9 a.m. The reason I brought that up is because we need to make sure that we represent and that we fight for each of the 64 parishes. One of the things that we can do as far as organizing concerning these districts is organizing at the local level, so that when they redraw the next districts, you can say, hey, this is not a district. There's no way this can be a district from Shreveport all the way down to South Louisiana. We're talking about people with different values, different lights, and just an entirely different environment. It's time for us to be together and be proactive going forward to make this a better state.
You can hang on to the mic because you'll go first. We have more billionaires in our country now than ever before. What specifically can you do to reduce the influence that big money has in our world?
Well, the first thing that I would do, one of the first things, is I will introduce legislation that will prevent anyone that can't vote to donate to campaigns. I feel that the only people that should be able to donate to a campaign should be those that can vote in that particular area. I don't think foreign money, dark money, or anyone else should be able to donate. It's time for special interests to go away. This is supposed to be a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And it's time for us to live by those words in our legislation.
So I think that we need to overturn Citizens United. And look, let's be very specific, because I want to be focused on what the United States Senate does. And one very important thing we do is we confirm or reject judges. And so this needs to be a part of the conversation, just like voting rights needs to be a part of the conversation when judges come before the U.S. Senate asking for our vote to confirm them. So we need to end Citizens United, and I've committed to not taking any corporate PAC money, any APAC money in this race. And as far as billionaires' influence, we need to demand that they pay their fair share. We need to close the tax loopholes that exist that make it so that effectively they pay less in tax than you and me. And what happens when we do that? We can invest in universal early childhood education. We can invest in national paid family leave. We can invest in our schools and our health care and reverse the cuts to Medicaid and Medicare that this Congress has tried to put in place to fund those tax cuts for billionaires. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to prioritize.
Our next question, and you'll go first. What would you do to reform or change immigration control enforcement, or ICE, to ensure it operates within the law and protects civil liberties?
We need to condition any funding in terms of immigration enforcement on our federal agents applying due process of law, because we cannot have untrained, masked men roving our streets using racial profiling and avoiding due process and murdering people in our streets. It's outrageous, it's wrong, and I will not stand by. I will not apply any funding to these agencies without ironclad due process protections for the people in our communities. So our immigration policy has to begin with humanity. I said in my opening, every person has dignity. Every person is important. And our policies ought to flow from that reality. And that's what I will fight for. I will make sure that we end private detention facilities, end private prisons, because there should not be a profit motive for putting someone in a cage. We had a bipartisan immigration reform package that was ready to go in the United States Congress, and the president torpedoed it because he said he wanted it as a political issue. We can do immigration reform where we make it easier for people to use legal channels to come here, but it needs to be a priority.
So above everything else, I believe in fairness. One of the things that we don't see is we don't see Eastern Europeans being rounded up. We don't see Russians being rounded up. We only see brown and black people being rounded up. And we're talking about hardworking people for the most part. What I want to see in new immigration legislation, I want to see the teeth to make it fair. I want to see across the board that we're working with all urgency to be humane. That is important as well. I don't think that there is any threat of these people taking jobs because they're out there working jobs in construction, in agriculture. Right now we're having problems down on the coast with needing help on some of the fisheries. It's time to do the right thing and make this government about the people instead of about hate and big business.
Okay. Since Republicans always seem to win in Louisiana, what about you? What can you do to move the needle and perhaps change the balance of power? And I think it's Mr. Crockett's turn to go first.
Okay, so the first thing is we have to stop being reactive and start being proactive. We have to make voting part of our lifeblood. The same way we look at 4th of July and all other holidays, we have to look forward to voting and get out there with fervor. But not only that, treat it like it's your birthday. Tell your friend, tell your neighbor. And not only that, do what we used to do. Take someone with you when you vote. Get involved on the front end because that will change their mindset. In addition to that, we have to be very strategic. The same way Project 2025, which originated out of Lafayette, Louisiana, we have to do the same. It's time for us to strategize, write that strategy down, and implement it when we have a chance. We have to not be concerned about the next election. When I get in, I'm not concerned about the next term. I'm going to do what I can do during my first term, whatever it is for the people of Louisiana. And with us in our everyday life, do what you can do right now with your neighbor. Don't get stuck on R&Ds, because when the storm hits, we don't care who someone voted for. All we do is jump in and help. And right now, all of us should be helping each other. And even those Republicans that are your neighbors, speak to them, reason with them, let them know how you're feeling about this so that we can do good for each other.
So there are a couple different aspects to this. Number one, we have to mobilize first. Because, Louisiana has about a third. Third Democrat, third Republican, third no party. So when we mobilize, when we organize and we get out the vote, we win. I worked for Governor Edwards, and I worked on his re-election campaign, and we built a broad coalition around this state. And he won 8 years as governor here in this state. And I'm proud to have his endorsement. I'm proud to partner with him to recreate that here in this federal election. When Governor Edwards was in the governor's office, we had Republicans in the House, Republicans in the Senate. So I had to work with those folks in order to solve a budget crisis, in order to protect Medicaid expansion, in order to get things done day in, day out. And so for me, it was going in and being solution-oriented. It was going in and listening, but never sacrificing my values. And I believe in this state, that's what it takes. It's uniting around shared Democratic values, which I believe are shared Louisiana values. And when we do that, we're able to win.
I think we're going to open it to some questions from the audience. And please cut to the chase. These are the only guys who get to make speeches.
Okay, so it isn't really a question. It's not going to be a speech. I need to challenge everyone in this room to understand that the responsibility to get the vote out doesn't just rely on these candidates that come here and change their lives, willing to risk everything to make our lives better. We have to take responsibility. We have to get the word out. There are people out there that don't even know what's going on. It's not that they don't care. They have to know. So we have to spread the word, break the algorithm, and become contagious with our energy to get this done. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Is there a question? Does somebody have a question? Because I can go on forever with questions, but we're trying to give you guys the opportunity. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Here we go.
So I think there's been a growing shift towards the left in reaction to. There's been a growing shift to the left. There's sort of the progressive wing is forming more in response to the inability of the moderates. So I'm wondering where each candidate stands, like a more moderate like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, or more like AOC, Zohran Mamdani, more democratic socialist, or more towards the center?
So, as for me, I'm going to resist labels and I'm going to just tell you what I'm fighting for and what the policies are that I'm fighting for. Although I will say, my now late brother sent me a video of Mamdani and was like he really reminds me of you. And I don't think he was just talking about the beard, but look, here's the thing. In my last answer, and this gets at the comment that was just made, I think that, we're able to do this here in Louisiana when we come together around shared values. And what I mean by that is when I think about everybody, no matter who they voted for president over the past 3 cycles, I think that everybody wants to walk out of their house onto a safe street. Everybody wants to be able to go to the doctor when they get sick and not go bankrupt if they have to have an operation. Everybody wants to drink clean water and breathe clean air. Everyone wants to be treated with equal rights under the law. And everybody wants a good job with fair wages where they're treated with dignity at work. And we all want great schools for our kids, where our teachers are highly trained and well compensated. And I could go on. But I think, to your point, those are the things that I'm going to be fighting for in the United States Senate. And I'm going to demonstrate how we can come together around those priorities and put in place policies that get us towards those priorities. I remember I was at something recently, and somebody had a shirt with some of those things on it, and it's like aren't those radical or something like that? And that's the point, is that when we really get to the root of it, we can communicate this in a way to every single person in this state.
I'm going to be honest with you. The reason we are where we are right now is because of politics as usual. We've gone decades of politics as usual, and it's time over for that. That's one of the reasons that I'm running for this seat. We have not been honest with each other about mistakes that we've made. So if a governor has some missteps, it's very important to say that, because whether he says it or not, the people know it. And so what happens during the next election? They don't vote. The reason why we have the extremists from AOC over to Jeffries is for the same reason. There's some that won't admit that, hey, we have to make a change. And then there are others that say, oh, we absolutely have to make a change. And because you're resistant to it, we're going to over-change this. Now is the time to do things as we really want to see them. But we have to be very honest with our constituents. We have to be very honest with you about where we are and where we need to be. But we also need to hear more from you. We cannot sit back silent and complain. We cannot wait until there's legislation that hurts us. We have to get on the front lines now, every day, making sure that those that are 17 and 18 that are going to be able to vote, educate them now. Educate your friends as well, so that we can make the changes without going to any extreme.
Both of you, in regards to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the new current ban on women's having the ability to obtain abortion drugs via mail, the current administration's reversal on many of the women's rights lately. What do you each plan to do to recoup on these rights, these life-saving medications and procedures, and what do you plan to do to codify these rights in the future?
So you go first this time. Basically, what can they do to improve women's rights as far as different medications to induce abortion, as well as other potentially life-saving measures, is kind of what I got from it. Is that?
Right. So one of the things that we have to do, again, this goes back to the local level. We have to make sure that we have legislation that allows doctors to do what doctors do, not have that legislated. So in other words, if women need particular medication concerning reproductive rights, they should be able to get that. And what we have to do is make sure that we continue to fight for that, and fight for it in general ways in the subject in which it's under. This one is under health care. It's under medicine. And that's where we should keep it. As far as abortion rights in general, I believe that the women do have a right for making a choice in their reproduction. In addition to that, I believe that there should be some guardrails in that last trimester. What I don't want to see is women 6 months pregnant going to have an abortion, unless it's medically necessary. I'm always going to be honest with you. I'm not going to be politically correct. But up until that time, I think that those rights should be preserved.
So I believe that we need to codify Roe in federal legislation so that we have uniformity across states. Because what we see right now is people who are scared, providers who are afraid to give even emergency treatment to women who are having pregnancy complications or experiencing miscarriage because they fear criminalization. We can't criminalize healthcare. We can't criminalize healthcare providers. And so it's critically important that we make sure that government stays out of private medical decisions, period.
Is there anyone who has not yet had a chance to ask a question who would like to ask a question? Okay, have at it.
Recently, our state legislature has introduced a bill into the state Senate called the Senate Bill 269. If you're unfamiliar with this bill, it is called the Charlie Kirk Success Sequencing Act. This is a bill that is introduced in order to engage in our educator and say that the secret to success is merely 3 steps: to stay in school, to work full-time, and to marry before having kids. My question is, as senators, how can you help politics engage meaningfully in our education systems and keep things like influencer-based bills out of our classrooms?
Well, I think education would be better off if we had an educator running the Department of Education rather than a wrestling star. And maybe we should fund our schools so that every child can walk into a public school and have amazing resources. And every child, no matter their learning style, no matter their ability, has the dignity that they deserve as a child being educated in the richest nation on earth. Because it comes back to priorities. You know, that bill, that's saying we're putting the onus on this child who's coming into this world and is relying upon adults to be making the decisions that help that child thrive. So look, I'm a proud parent of 3 public school kids. Again, we're going to shout out Bobby. Bobby's my oldest. He just got done taking the LEAP test, so shout out to Bobby for finishing the LEAP test. But we need to invest in our schools, and we need to have leaders that are focused on the true value of each and every child in this country.
Hi, Bobby. You know, Bobby gives me a very hard time. And let me tell you why. My kids are like, my oldest is like 36. So we're talking about a huge difference. But one of the traps of this legislation is control. You know, the great activists that we have around voting rights and around activism in America are young single people. And this legislation says, we don't want you young and single. What we want you to do is get trapped with a job, trapped with a family, so that you don't have time to be an activist. We want you so concerned that if you get out of line, that we can take your job away. This is what I say. To each his own as far as your lifestyle, and I don't want lifestyle legislated. What I want us to do is to have young people that are going to hold us accountable, to be productive, and make this nation great through its diversity.
It's time for closing statements. I don't know. Okay.
This is an important one. Your opinion and support for the effort of St. George to create its own school district, and how will you ensure that the federal education policy does not allow local breakaways to increase racial and economic separation in Louisiana? You were talking about your son and his LEAP test. I think this is an important question.
Yeah, that is an important question. And for those of you who aren't familiar, St. George is the breakaway school district in Baton Rouge. And so I lived in Baton Rouge for 4 years. I live in New Orleans now. But we lived in what is, they're trying to break away right now as St. George. And I had the chance to vote against it once as a local ordinance. And I'm looking forward to voting against the constitutional amendment because it's critically important that all school districts have the ability to thrive. And when we try to break away funding and say, well, we're going to put all these resources into this school district, it is discriminatory. And when we look at this question, because when I first finished graduate school at Georgetown University, I did a year working as a policy analyst focused on questions of education funding. And what we find is that schools thrive when they're fully funded, and schools thrive when they're economically and racially diverse. So that is something we need to affirmatively push for.
All right, so first of all, the St. George pull-away is not just about the school. It's about that town now that is St. George. And the way I feel about those that want to pull away, but with your own resources. You don't get to remain on our sewer. You don't get to remain on our own water or any of our other services. And that includes the schools as well. I feel that schools in a city should all be funded at the same level. I don't feel that because my house is a lot more expensive that I should have a better school. Because at the end of the day, we're all in the same city. So it's time to stop with the discrimination, hold those accountable that want to break away, and let them pay their own costs for breaking away.
I think we're doing the closing statements now, and I think it's Mr. Crockett's turn to go first.
Once again, I'm Gary Crockett. There's nothing complicated about me. I'm just like you. I grew up in Tallulah, Louisiana, very poor area. I grew up not even having enough underwear to last throughout the week. And that's the truth. Worked hard, joined the Navy, got 2 college degrees, now own 4 companies. I have 4 children who are great. What I want to do at this time is represent you. I think time is over for politics as usual. Whatever has happened in the past, we don't need that anymore. We don't need people with the stigma and the baggage from politics in the past, because this is a new day. And right now, the Republican Party is fighting with brass knuckles. It is time for us to do 2 things. 1, put on a pair of brass knuckles as well. But in addition to that, we have to plan and strategize and be proactive about what we do. We've been reactive for too long. Send someone new to represent you. Send someone like you to represent you.
So it's been an honor to be with you all today. It's been great to be here in Lake Charles, and I look forward to returning soon. My work throughout my career has been rooted in community. So I've worked for nonprofit organizations like Catholic Charities and Volunteers of America most recently in order to build the innovative programs that meet the needs of the people throughout our state. I talked about how I worked with Governor Edwards to expand health coverage to 500,000 people. Let's remember that our votes matter. After a recent town hall, someone in New Iberia came up to me and said, Medicaid expansion saved my life. And right now, Republicans voted on a bill to slash Medicaid by $1 trillion. And they put the effective date January 1st, 2027, after the midterm elections. This is a fight that I've taken on and I've won. I'm going to continue going around the state to remind people that health care and affordability, that is on everyone's ballot. I'm ready to take the fight to the Republicans right now to heal this country and to end the chaos in Washington. I'm Nick Albares, number 1 on your ballot. I hope I've earned your vote today. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, thank y'all so much for coming out. Is everybody ready to go vote? Say yes. All right, go right down to the courthouse, y'all.
If anybody wants to follow me, I'm going to vote right now.
All right, yes.